And welcome back, everyone. Now, you might be asking, well, wait a minute, didn't you already do Ben 10's Pokemon team? OG Ben 10's Pokemon team, to be precise. And you were right, I did. However, as I explained in that video a while back, Ben has literally about 18 aliens in the OG series, like 17 or 18. He's got enough for at least 3 different teams. And I just held up 3 fingers like you could see that. He's got enough for 3 different teams. So Ben Tennyson is one of the few characters that we can actually continue to do multiple series for to get out all the aliens on his team. And by the way, as I said, I'm doing it in order of appearance. That you can organize the teams however you want for different things, but I am just doing it in order of appearance. And obviously, the first one that will show up will be, as always, a starter. So we catch up to past the first 6, which were, if I remember correctly, Heat Blast, Wild Mutt, Diamond Head, Forearms, Gray Matter, and why am I blanking on the last one? Oh God, why am I blanking on the last one? Gray Matter, I gotta remember all of them real quick. Heat Blast, Diamond Head, Wild Mutt, Gray Matter for Accelerate. That's what it was, Accelerate. So now we're on to our next one. And the first one that we see showing up into the show after the fact is Stinkfly. Now, Stinkfly was difficult because Stinkfly's design really looks like a Pokemon in and of itself if you just change a bit. So I was trying to figure out, okay, it needs to be a bug type, guaranteed. If it can fly, great, but I can be a little flexible with that if I need to be. But design-wise, there's really not much that works. Stinkfly is a durable insect who can shoot out toxic, noxious, sticky fluid-like substance. So a bug poison type can work. The closest thing that matched up was Beedrill, and that didn't even work very well. But Beedrill is a Pokemon that has a Mega Evolution. And Mega Beedrill here does, in fact, look more or less... I think it's the closest thing we can get to a Stinkfly. And so this, I think, works. It's a bug poison type. It's when you factor Mega Evolution in, it has ridiculous speed and attack stat. Its attack stat is 145. And its speed stat is, where is its speed stat again? Its speed stat is, its attack stat is 150. Its speed stat is 145. So that's outspeeding the majority of stuff in the game. But it's also got literally no defense, particularly special defense. It's got a little bit, not much, mind you, but a little bit of defense. But it's really just a glass can. It has no special attack whatsoever either. It really is a glass cannon. 1, maybe 2 hits if you're lucky, and this thing goes down. So there you start with that. But next was Ripjaw, and again, Ripjaw's looks kind of like a Pokemon in and of itself. The best way you can interpret its design is it's kind of like a mer person with an anglerfish with like a bite of a shark. The problem is, again, there's really no one-to-one to that in terms of Pokemon. So what can we do beyond that? Well, I knew because of the name Ripjaws, it needed to be a water type, first off. It'd be something that had a serious bite. If possible, something that can also go on land, though that wasn't a mandatory. Ultimately, though, I decided one I haven't put on the team before, or a team before, and that is Dracovish. It is, I believe, I think it's called the Big Jaw Pokemon. One of its abilities literally is Strong Jaw for biting type moves, and that works out perfectly with Ripjaw. I think it also has the best designed mouth to represent Ripjaw as well. And now, granted, it's a dragon-fish combo, but I still think it works in this case. After that, we had Upgrade. Upgrade being a galvanic metamorph. Metamorph or mechamorph? Either way, a liquid organic metal that can possess machines. Look, there's only one Pokemon really that can possess machines, and that's Rotom. He's been showing up a lot in these team videos, and look, rightfully so. It's a Pokemon that can represent a lot of different things. After that, though, we had Ghost Freak. Now, Ghost Freak is interesting. Design-wise, I actually could have gone more like with Dust Noir. That probably is closer in design. However, in terms of a little bit of what we see in the show, Ghost Freak has a, a cloth form and his real form. His cloth form looks kind of just like a spooky ghost with a moving eye that can do ghost things. Its real form, though, is so, it's not truly its real form, but Ghost Freak is literally capable of doing an ability where he literally tears open the clock, shows his opponent the insides of himself, and it frightens them near to death, like to be comatose. That, weirdly enough, describes Mimikyu. Mimikyu wears this little Pikachu cloak because it wants to be loved. It's not that one-to-one, but if you were to look under and see its true form, it theoretically would kill you, as it did with Meowth in the actual series. So, surprisingly, Mimikyu fit that bill. Then we had Cannonbolt, the giant pill bug that turns into a living cannonbolt that just runs things over. Luckily, I had a perfect idea for this one. We needed something that can learn rollout first and foremost. But beyond that, there was really only one good, real solid choice for that, in my opinion, and that's Golem. Golem made the most sense here. It's the most shaped like Cannonbolt, but it's also a Pokemon that literally is a rolling ball with a head. So that worked out. Last but not least, to fill in the next 12, or next 6, I should say, is Wildvine, the plant sentient monster that can merge with other plants, stretch out its limbs, regrow them if it needs to, throw seed bombs. It's a very versatile alien, to be sure. And what was actually always one of my favorites. But what do we have that can represent that? Sadly, there's definitely no one-to-one. There's no real humanoid grass type that works well in this sense. A mon that is got like grassy tentacles for feet and all that, but is still humanoid-esque. I decided to go Carnivine. I think it's got the tentacles, the tentacle vine legs that Wildvine has. It's got a ferocious mouth that can learn a lot of grass type moves, including things like Seed Bomb. So it definitely works, I think, for this. So there you go. The question, as always, is how balanced is this team? And fortunately, this turned out to be one of the much more balanced teams I've done. There's no type that just cleaves through the team, which is good. Now, there are still a couple weaknesses. There's 2 Mon, Carnivine, and Beedrill weak to fire. There's 2 Mon, Carnivine, and Beedrill weak to flying. There's 2 Mon, both Mimikyu and Rotom weak to Ghost. And there's 2 Mon, Golem, and Carnivine weak to Ice. That does mean that Carnivine is the weak link on this team. It has the most weaknesses out of the group. But there really weren't a lot of, crossover weaknesses. A lot of the weaknesses that could have also been times 2 or more got canceled out. For example, Golem being a rock type is technically weak to ground, but because Rotom has Levitate as its ability, it's immune to ground type moves. Conversely, there could have been a times 2 weakness to grass on this team, but Dracovius' dragon type negates that weakness. So it's actually pretty rounded out. As for how well this team would do trying to become champion, this is the first team in a while that actually has a good shot at a lot of the champion titles. Starting with Kanto, because you start with a Mega Beedrill as your partner Mon, even the rock type gyms aren't the hardest thing to deal with. You actually shouldn't have too big of a problem with any of the starting gyms. Save for maybe Gen 4's Rorik, because he's got 3 rock types on the team. That one we'll talk about a bit more in detail when we get to it. But otherwise, Brock you'll have no problem with. Misty you'll have no problem with, because at that point you now have an early dragon type and a strong one at that. Base total 505. Lance you shouldn't struggle at all with. Yeah, no problem with Erica. You'll have no problem with Koga. Really, your only biggest weaknesses are, say, Blaine, and at that point now you have a ground rock type and a water dragon type. You should get through Giovanni to find your biggest issues, really, as it comes down to, are just going to be Blue, who, because this team is so diversified, usually has at least a couple of your weaknesses on his team. And Lorelei from the Elite Four is a little problematic. 2 of your ice type, 2 of your Mon are directly weak to ice. Your Beedrill is not going to be able to take down every single Mon on that team, but you should be able to get through at least 1 or 2 of them. You'll struggle a little bit with Lorelei, but honestly, I think you can become Kanto's champion, no problem. Same with Johto. Honestly, you don't struggle with Johto. Again, you'll cleave through the first part of the region, no problem. You won't struggle through Johto until you get to Jasmine. Because while this team is good, it actually isn't all that great against steel types. The only thing you have really on your side for that is Golem, who can learn Earthquake and a couple other ground moves. So it definitely can work against Jasmine. Price is another one where you're going to struggle a bit because now you have no good answer for Price. Even though you have a water type in Dracovish, it's still also dragon, so ice is not just going to be neutral, which means that's still going to hurt. And the only water type moves, it'll learn are, Fish's Rend, which you are really only going to outspeed, if I remember correctly, Piloswine on that team. Two of your again, Beedrill might take something out quick, but I don't know. Price is going to be difficult. Claire is also problematic. The only thing you have on this team to handle dragons is Dracovish. Now, luckily, Dracovish is stronger than anything that would be on her team, save for maybe Kingdra. In fact, Kingdra to Dracovish is our interesting matchup. Who's the better water dragon? I would say because of their abilities, Dracovish might hold the edge. But the fact is, unless they're throwing... The only advantage you're going to have with Dracovish over Kingdra is that your move pool's better. You will have more devastating dragon moves to hit Kingdra with than Kingdra will you. Kingdra's main move is Dragon Breath, if I'm not mistaken. You're still going to struggle with Claire quite a bit, but after that, it's kind of smooth sailing, to be honest. Most of Elite Four, the Psychic, I think it's Will is the Psychic Elite Four member. Beedrill's going to cleave through almost all of that on its own. Koga, Mimikyu's weak to poison, but nothing else is really weak to poison on her team. And you've got Golem. Bruno, again, you might struggle a little bit, but you got two Ghosts on the team. Plus, you got Dracovish, and again, Beedrill should be able to get through a bunch of it. Beedrill should cleave through the Dark team, Elite Four members team on their own. And then you go into Lance. Lance is the only one where you're going to have some struggling. You're going to struggle a bit. You're actually going to struggle pretty hard with Lance because Beedrill probably can't take anything out on its own. It's going to deliver a massive hit, but Charizard, Aerodactyl, they all got type advantage over it, so it's going to go down pretty hard. Dracovish is going to be problematic for a little while, but he's got 3 Dragonites, who are pseudo in stats, so they're going to take the Dracovish down. You do have Rotom deal with Gyarados, Charizard, and Aerodactyl to a certain degree. You've got Golem to deal with Aerodactyl and Charizard to a certain degree, and Mimikyu being a fairy type certainly prevents some damage. You can beat Lance, but Lance as champion is far more difficult than Elite Four Lance. Then you get to Hoenn. Hoenn is where we start to struggle a little bit. You honestly won't have any real problems, quite frankly. Actually, you will have one big problem in the beginning. Roxanne, you might not be able to beat. Just because, again, once you have multiple rock types, as opposed to like just the 2, like 3 rock types, you are going to be struggling hard. But assuming you can get past her, which again, with a Mega Beedrill is not impossible. And because she's around level 14, 15, you'll have like a level 14, 15, maybe 16. I don't over level very much when I talk about this because in theory, you can over level to the point where you beat anyone. But I give a little leeway, you should be able to beat her. After that, though, it's a clean sweep through Brawly, Watson, Flannery, Norman, Winona, like everyone, all the gym leaders at that point really aren't that big of a problem. So when you get to Elite Four, that you start to struggle. Now, I think his name is Nate, the Dark type Elite Four member. You're going to cleave through him. No worries, Beedrill's got your back on that. The Ghost type Elite Four member as well. Honestly, you won't. You got 2 decent little Ghost Pokemon on there, plus a strong Dragon. Golem's a tank, and Beedrill again cleave through it. Glacia is where you're going to start to have some problems because your Glass Cannon is going to go down pretty hard, pretty quick. It might take something out, but it's going to go down. Carnivine's no good here. Even Golem is weak in this scenario because half of Vermont aren't just aren't just ice, they're water. Dracovish is going to be neutral, but he's only going to be able to do so much damage. His dragon moves aren't going to hurt the ice types that much. So Glacia is your first real problem. I think you can get past her, but then there's Drake. And Drake, I'm going to be honest, he's always a wall because he's actually one of the most balanced Elite Four members, I think. He's one of the toughest, that's for certain. He's always got a great team, even in the original version. And yeah, with just the Flygons alone, and if you're going with like his Ruby Sapphire, Omega Ruby Sapphire team, he's got Salamence, Altaria. Like you're not taking this guy down. You just don't have what it takes to beat him, unfortunately. And even if you could get past him, you still got to deal with Steven, who, quite frankly, you are not prepared to deal with. The only thing you really have to going against Steven is Golem, and that thing's going to go down pretty quick, given it has most of his Mon outspeed or have coverage against it. So, no, I don't think you can come Hoenn champion. Sinnoh, we already talked about. Rourke. That is honestly very tough. I'm not certain you can even get past Rourke, to be frank. If by some miracle you're able to get past it, because he's got, I think, if I remember correctly, a Geodude, an Onix, and a Craniados. And unfortunately, the moveset for Beedrill is not great. It gets better as the generations go on because you can learn Fell Slinger as its final attack, but the moveset isn't great because it's still a Beedrill. So at best you're learning maybe like Poison Sting, Fury Attack. You still might not win. Beyond that, though, pretty much all the gym leaders after that, kind of a cakewalk, to be honest. It's the Elite Four that you start to struggle with a little bit. Because right out the gate, I'm not sure you could beat Aaron. You only got one Mon here who's really got type advantage, and that's Golem against Aaron. Otherwise, and then you got Heracross, who's got fighting type moves, so it can just take that thing down. Drapion can cover Mimikyu as well as being a dark type, so it can cover Rotom as well. You might be able to take down Aaron. You might. But then Bertha comes, and you should be able to manage. Flint's also not that terrible, hard to deal with. And then I always forget the Psychic Elite Four member's name. But then you have to deal with freaking think words. Cynthia. Now, Beedrill should be able to take down Spiritomb. Okay, fair. That's actually not unrealistic to think. The problem comes then that you got to deal with things like her Lucario or her Milotic or Garchomp. And if Garchomp comes out, it's kind of good night, Irene. Most of your Mon don't outspeed it, first off. And therefore, Garchomp's almost always going to be getting the first hit in. And after that, and I believe it knows Earthquake and Dragon Claw, so you're already going to be on the back foot. Cynthia's too beast, unfortunately. Unova, again, because of Mega Beedrill, you should be able to get through all the gyms, no problem. Adding on each Mon as you go, and therefore having an answer to pretty much everything on the Elite Four, or the gym leaders. Only ones you might struggle with are Iris and Drayden, and even then, that's not a 1-to-1. Or, that's not a given. The question is the Elite Four and the champions. Elite Four, honestly, I mean, Beedrill can cover the Dark type no problem on its own. Then you got 2 Ghost types and a Psychic and a Bug type for the Psychic. Then you got the Fighting type, which you don't really have a good answer for, and 2 of the Fighting type Mon no Sucker, or several of the Fighting type Mon no Sucker Punch. So Rotom and Mimikyu probably aren't doing the best, but I think you can manage. And then the Ghost type, again, you should be okay. It's whether or not you can beat Iris or Alder. Iris, I think, is just a complete no-go. 3 overly strong dragons on that team. Plus an Aggron, Lapras, and an Archeops. I don't think you're really cut out to be taken on that team. You're just not. You'll take a couple of them down with you, but no. Alder, though, you stand a better shot with Alder. Elselgor is not as fast as Mega Beedrill, but unfortunately Mega Beedrill isn't going to put Elselgor down. And because of the glass cannon scenario, I think Beedrill will go down before Elselgor does. Then you're going to have to deal with the other Mon on team, which you don't, again, have a good answer for Steel types, which, again, Excavalier is a Steel type. So that's going to be tanky as hell and have high defense. Not to mention you've got a Dragon type, which can go toe-to-toe with Dracovish. You also got an Ice type on the team, which is a weakness of 2 of your stronger Mons, of Vanillux. You also got Buffalo, which is the tanky Pokemon, and then you got Volcarona, which can kind of cleave through a large chunk of this team as well. So no, I don't think you can beat Alder as well. Kalos is a no-go, only because, really, no joke, Diantha's where you stop. You can get through, honestly, the gyms with no real difficulty. Because you'll have Dracovish by you get time, you get to Grant. Because Grant, frankly, would take down your Mega Beedrill. Even though they're under-evolved Mon, Grant, they're level 25 and Dragon and Ice, respectively. Dracovish, though, should be able to handle them. Otherwise, you shouldn't struggle with any of the other gyms. It's the Elite Four and the Champion that are a bit of a problem. The Dragon-type gym leader or Elite Four member, you're going to have some problems with. Water-type, you should be fine. The same with the Steel type, you will struggle, but you also have a Ground type, so that's all right. And the Fire type, again, Beedrill and Carnivine are weak to it, but again, Water Dragon, Rock, Ground, you should be okay. But what about Diantha? Because she starts out with Hawlucha, and because no bug attack, even with a super high attack, is going to take that thing down in one hit, Hawlucha's probably going to Flying Crush you into oblivion. After that, she's also got Tyrantrum, Amoris, a Goodra, a Gourgeist, and a Mega Gardevoir. As balanced as this team is, there's no heavy enough hitters on this team to really be able to do anything. So no, can't be Diantha. Last but not least, let's just talk about the other two. Paldea and Galar. You can get to both the champions with this team. That's not up for debate. But once again, the issue always comes in with Lance. Starts out with the Aegislash. He always does. And right at the gate, that's a problem. Because, like I said, this team's really not that good against Steel. Only Golem is. So Mega Beedrill's going to struggle, probably go down first, or just barely manage to take it down. And then Dragon Bolt's going to come and sweep nearly the entire team. It can take down Dracovish on its own. Your Rotom, your Mimikyu, your Carnivine, that Dragon Bolt alone will take down things. And then comes out the Haxorus after the fact. That's not even going into his lead. So, or his main, I should say, his ace. And then it's a rotation of things like Mr. Rhyme and the starter or something like that, or Time. Either way, you almost never get past that Dragapult. And I think you'd struggle to get past that Dragapult even here. And then come Paldea. Honestly, you hit a brick wall immediately, which is with the Elite Four alone. Because the Elite Four of Paldea are actually very strong. Rika alone is a very competent ground-type trainer, and even though this team isn't weak to ground, per se, you still don't have a huge amount of strength against ground. You go neutral with a lot of these guys. Dracovish can do a lot of damage, but it's not powerful enough to take down all of her strongest Mon. So neither is Carnivine. But I think you can get past it. But where you just run into the big roadblock, ultimately, is Poppy. The only thing you have against her Steel type is Golem, and that thing's not going to last forever, probably. So, unfortunately, I think you stop at Poppy. But if you were to somehow manage to get past Poppy, which I don't think is impossible, I should also note Mimikyu is weak to Steel. Mimikyu's weak to Steel too. So that is problematic. Again, though, if you can get past Poppy, we still got to deal with enormous flying types, which really isn't that big an issue. Mind you, 1/3 of your team is weak to flying, but then you have Golem and Dracovish and Rotom there. And then you got to deal with, was it Hansel or something like that? The Dragon Elite Four member. And he's, again, got a fairly competent Dragon team, to be sure. And I don't think you're able to get past that. Because dragons are masters of dragon attacks, but also jacks of all trade at the same time. Could have so many things. And if I were to Hassel, that's his name, Hassel. What a hassle. But let me just double check Hassel's team here real quick, just to know, because I know he's got the pseudo other region back Excalibur on his team. He's also got a Noivern, if I remember correctly. I think he's got a Dragonite. Who are his other Elite Four, or his other teammates? Let's see here. So actually, now that I got this up here, let me just recap to see how well this team would handle against each one individually. I don't. Okay, so Hassel, back Excalibur, Flapple, that was it. Dragalge, Haxorus, and Noivern. And yeah, I mean, the Noivern's got Air Slash, Dragon Pulse, Super Fang, Hyper Voice. Okay, not bad. But then you get Dragon Claw, Crunch, Iron Head, and Rock Tomb with freaking Haxorus. Dragalge's got Sludge Bomb, Dragon Pulse, Hydro Pump, and Thunderbolt. Seed Bomb, Dragon Rush, Aerolinks, and Lead Seed with Flapple. And that Excalibur surprisingly has 3 moves, which I don't know why. Brick Break, Ice Crash, Icicle Rush, and Glaive Rush. Yeah, it's a pretty beast team. Like, I don't think you can get to Gita. But for the sake of argument, let's just play devil's advocate here, saying that you maybe do get to Gita. Honestly, no joke, you actually could beat Gita because you can take down 2 or 3 Mon with Beedrill alone, at least. King Gambit is problematic, even with the advantage over Dark. The Steel type something Bug can't get through. So, unfortunately, you are kind of, that thing's going to go down there. You'd probably bring out Golem, who is faster, pull off an Earthquake. Then she's going to put out Veluza, which is faster, knows Aqua Jet and Liquidation. So that's going to hurt Golem quite a bit. Won't take it down because it's sturdy. Golem might be able to knock it out. Should note that Go-Go would actually come out later in the match, even though it could be defeated. So Go-Go will take down the Golem, most likely. After that, now you have a choice. What are you going to do? Personally, I'd probably go with Mimikyu. Mimikyu might be able to do it, or Dracovish, even though it's still got water. But then comes out Avalugg to counter that. Then, or Veluza, one of the two. Mind you, Avalugg's got tanky defense, but no special whatsoever. Cardamine's not going to be a good choice for that. It would be tough, and I don't think there's a guarantee you could win. But I think it's still possible you could beat Gita. But you're never getting to Gita because you're never getting past the rest of this group. So that's Ben Tennyson's second Pokemon team. Let me know what you think about this. Then put it in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.